So the Indiana Pacers stay hot. The Warriors coming with 10 healthy bodies and missing 6 of their top 8 in the rotation. They hung in the game, really all game.
You got to give them credit. Like, there was an opportunity to come and have fun and play an NBA basketball game and ball out, put some numbers up. Multiple guys did that. They competed. They stayed in the game as long as they could. Got to give the Pacers credit. Offensively, they've been rolling lately. Played well enough to win this one.
All right, welcome in. Warriors lose 108-96 to the Indiana Pacers. Yeah, good effort. Bunch of guys were out. Warriors punted on the game in the second of back-to-back. With the win last night in Detroit. No Steph Curry, no Draymond Green. Andrew Wiggins is away from the team. But, yeah, there were some young guys and guys who didn't get opportunities, haven't at least regularly, who did get opportunities. Pat Spencer among them, who had a career-high 17. Quentin Post got the most meaningful time he has received at any point in his NBA career, and knocked down that first career 3, had a career high 6, but just not enough offense, as you would expect for the Warriors, who don't have enough offense even on nights when all of those players that I had mentioned, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins, are playing, in addition to, obviously, Jonathan Kuminga. It sounds like Gary Payton II could be back at some point here as soon as even Monday. Brandon Pajemski, I know the Warriors were having the thought that he could return before this 4-game trip is over. So now they are 1-1. And again, I think, the big picture part of the conversation as we get things rolling here on Dubs OT on KNBR is, the Warriors really are finding themselves right now up against a potential breaking point in their season right now. And that's why last night, the win, and we were on YouTube only last night due to the college football playoff game, their ability to get that win, knowing that there was a great likelihood that Steph Curry wasn't going to be able to play in this game tonight, in the second of the back-to-back, getting that win, they're in survival mode right now. At this point, they're in survival mode to try and make the trade deadline meaningful for them at this point, coming off of what has been a really, really frustrating week with the ugly losses to the Kings and the Heat in their own right. By the way, the Kings still hot. They've won 6 in a row now. They went into Boston, had a huge fourth quarter, and beat the Celtics tonight in Boston. So that's 6 in a row now for the Kings with Doug Christie. Go figure. The Kings, all of a sudden, they're winning close games and they're playing free. It's interesting. I think you take some of the expectations away from them because they had fallen so far under 500 and they just started playing well. And that's a team, obviously, if you know, and you've heard me talk about them, they've got a lot of talent on that team, and they were a team that I thought was going to be able to win a lot of regular season games. But the fired coach bump is clearly helping Sacramento. I think a lot of those guys, as I've mentioned, pretty embarrassed. But the Kings embarrassing the Warriors, and then the even more, in some ways, embarrassing loss for the Warriors to the Heat on Tuesday at Chase, and then they're able to go get one in Detroit, which is huge. And again, this team's just trying to stay afloat, I feel like, right now. And, tonight, a game that was lost at 11 o'clock in the morning when Steph Curry and Draymond Green were going to be out. And obviously Kuminga's been out. And you look at Andrew Wiggins, who's going to be out here with the personal reasons and everything that's going on there. And so, again, kind of a developmental kind of a game for the Warriors. Not a lot of huge takeaways from this one. 21st different starting lineup for the Warriors, and the 4th different one in the last 5 games. The Warriors had been playing okay this year, kind of an oddity without Steph Curry. But again, you have all those guys out, and it just isn't going to pencil. I think you also get a little bit of a lesser effort from your opponent sometimes when you're as shorthanded as the Warriors were in this one. And so I think Indiana wasn't completely locked in, but they did more than enough. As you look at the beginning of this game, Warriors with a 14-4 run in the first quarter. They made enough runs to keep it respectable throughout the course of this game. 14-4 run to take a 3-point lead after they trailed 13-6, and then the Pacers closed the first quarter with a 10-4 run to take a 3-point lead there. Pacers immediately pushed it up after the Warriors took another lead early in the second quarter, and just the case all night long, as you would expect. The Warriors unable to hit shots, just not enough talent on the floor. And right when you think, oh, this thing has the potential to get into blowout territory, the Warriors again close the half on a 13-4 run to make it a 50-45 game there. The Warriors were doing an okay job offensive rebounding. That was giving themselves opportunities. They had some points off turnovers, but you look up and it just, you probably had to have a hot shooting night from three. They ended up out hitting the Pacers from three, believe it or not, in this one. Neither team shot it well, and that's part of, I think, why this game, in terms of the box score, will look respectable. The Warriors 10 for 38 from three. The Pacers 9 of 27 from three-point range, but the Pacers just kind of quietly and calmly won each of the four quarters in this game to add it all up to a 108-96 victory in favor of Indiana. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. If you want to react to this one, is there anything that you take away from this game, anything at all? And we appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch, and the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well here on this Friday night as the Warriors find themselves now 19-19 here 38 games into the season. They get the whole weekend off. Their next game is in Toronto, and that becomes one of those games that almost feels like a must win. You're going to get Steph and Draymond back, have the potential to maybe get Wiggins back, maybe GP2's back. Kuminga's still a couple of weeks away, but as poorly as Toronto has played this season, that's a game where you have to go get it. And I know the Warriors won the last time they were in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago, right around the Christmas holiday, but you have to figure, that's going to be, obviously, of the two games remaining, the one that's going to be tougher to get. So you got to pay it forward and get that first one and assure that when you come home for 8 of 9 to close out January and begin February before the big 6-game road trip that leads into the All-Star break, that you're not getting under 500. And the Warriors have not, to this point, been under 500 at any point this year. And you start to get a game or two under 500 with as shorthanded as the Warriors are and their inability to score without really some significant signs of any moves to be made to try and help and add to this roster at this point. You start to get to that point, and the wrong kind of loss can completely send a team into a tailspin below 500, and then you're cooked. So I think very much on the table here over the next couple of weeks leading into the All-Star break and the trade deadline, which is now under 4 weeks away, 4 weeks from yesterday, basically in the afternoon. And so I think the Warriors are at this point fighting to save their season, fighting to make this a meaningful season down the stretch. So yeah, if there's anything that stands out tonight that translates in your mind to when the Warriors are closer to whole, let me know. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 or in the YouTube chat. And again, we always appreciate everybody on YouTube and Twitch as well. Just again, not enough shooting. Buddy Hield 3 of 12. Dennis Schroeder 1 of 6 from 3. Lindy Waters 1 for 5. Again, these are guys that have been asked to play bigger roles. Moses Moody 3 for 11 and 1 of 5 from 3-point range. Guy Santos, another good Guy Santos game with 11 points and a +9. So does Guy Santos need to get a few more minutes here? Again, the trajectory of this Warrior season is not going to be determined by does Guy Santos or Moses Moody get a few more minutes here or there. The trajectory of this Warrior season is going to be determined by whether or not they can win enough games until they make a move that moves the needle even a little bit to try and allow them to get on some semblance of a run to where they can separate themselves from 500, because the glut right now is real. And you start looking at where the standings are, in the Western Conference, and the Warriors at 19-19 now find themselves funny. They find themselves right where they were at the end of the year, 10th in the West, tied with Sacramento. So for all of the Kings started off poorly. I mean, they started off respectably, actually. They weren't meeting their own expectations in Sacramento, but they had some irrational expectations at the beginning. I mean, people talking about, 50-plus wins and, conference finals and things like that. But reality is, they started off underwhelming, but still slightly above 500. And then all hell broke loose. They really struggled toward the back half of December. Obviously, Mike Brown was fired. They found themselves 6 under, and now they've climbed all the way from 13-19 to 19-19. And they're right there with the Warriors with the one head-to-head win from the game on Sunday. And so you look at it, and the Kings and Warriors, very different paths to it, with the Warriors 12-3 at the start and then 3-12 from there. And now they're 4-4 in their last 8. Very different paths to basically getting to the same point. Obviously, the Kings' arrow is pointing up right now because they're hot. The Warriors' arrow, not so much because of the way that they've played really since the end of November and the week of Thanksgiving. I mean, this is 5-6 weeks now. We're talking about the Warriors have really struggled, although stemming the tide a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But 19-19 and 19-19, 9th and 10th. So a play-in game in Sacramento is where, as we sit here on January the 10th, 9 months after those two teams faced each other, at least for now, they would be facing each other again. And you've got the Spurs and the Suns beneath the Warriors, but basically right there. I mean, the Warriors are a game out of 12th right now. The Suns are 17-19. They're a half game out of 11th. And then you start to look up at this point, and it's 2 games separating where the 9th and the 10th spots are and where the 6th spot is. So very similar outlook to the way things sat last year, really for a majority of the season, where you were basically 2 games from being completely out of it and a disaster, or 2 or 3 games from, feeling pretty good. Maybe, got the 6th seed. Got the, have a shot at the 5 seed, although the Warriors obviously never last year able to have that come to fruition for them. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 as we begin the show here on Dubs OT with JD. We've got Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios, an extended show here tonight. All the way until 9 o'clock, just based on the timing of the game, obviously with the 4 o'clock start and with Larry's Niners Nightly show. And so we just pop right here on YouTube and Twitch and on KNBR from 7 until 9 tonight. So we'll get into some of the latest rumors as well. We will hear some post-game locker room sound from Indianapolis. We'll hear from Guy Santos and Pat Spencer, in addition to the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, following the Warriors' 108-96 loss in Indiana. And again, for those of you that have followed this program in the year plus that it's been on the air, or followed me in my prior radio life in covering this Golden State Warriors team, those who know there are few games I despise more than when a team just punts on a game. Like I despise it. And again, this is not necessarily a full punt because Steph's been dealing with this thumb thing and he's got the knee thing. And, he said last night he's hopeful that he can get back to a point where he can play in back-to-backs. Wiggins obviously has been out with the personal issue here. So that's a little bit of a different story. He was somebody that I think would have been out there. And then you look at some legitimate injuries, obviously, to Kuminga and GP2 and Brandon Pajemski, and Draymond's been a little banged up. And I know the Warriors, when Steph doesn't play, the Warriors try to use those nights at times to also give Draymond a little bit of a night off. So but I'm not one to take many big grandiose statements away one way or another. in this one. So, yeah, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number to jump in and join the conversation here as we get things going here on the Sports Leader. And a bunch of people see a lot of our regulars, Enrique Rivera, San Jose Jazz fan 4. There was, I think, a Kings fan that was kind of trolling a little bit because I called the Mike Brown firing an embarrassment and a joke. And look, it still was. Now, credit where credit is due. The Kings are winning with Doug Christie. So, I mean, hat tip to them. Sometimes the fired coach bump is a real thing. So, again, hat tip to them. They're playing much better basketball, and we'll see where it shakes out. They're all the way back to 500, and like I said, trending in the right direction. So, yeah, our buddy, who was it? RK, AK, somebody. Anyway, just trolling before he heads over to Deuce and Mo or whoever, before he goes and he lights the beam. Just wanting to troll Warrior fans who really don't give a rip about anything that's going on with that team. It's kind of a one-sided rivalry and discussion, but we do talk NBA. And again, I always give credit where credit is due. I did think it was funny, seeing some of the, big brother's now little brother. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not going to play the fan card here because I don't come at this from the fan standpoint, but I mean, if all you got to do is look at the last decade in terms of, fan happiness and fan misery to see who comes up on that end of the table. Although, yes, over the last 10 days, the Kings have been playing much better basketball than the Golden State Warriors have. All right, let's continue here in the YouTube chat. JD, can Guy become something more? Solid NBA player. I think he can. I mean, we talked about it last night on the YouTube only post game after the Detroit game. I think Guy Santos can be an NBA rotation player in the next year or two, without a doubt. I mean, I think he's got the hustle and the intangibles that you want to see, and that was on full display last night. And again, I think more important than the hustle and the intangibles is making a three-point shot consistently. I mean, and he did that again tonight. I mean, that to me is the most important component to Guy Santos becoming a regular NBA player and not somebody that's playing when 2 or 3 people are out. In terms of the depth chart and the players who are in front of him on that depth chart. That to me, it's proving, can you be a 40% 3-point shooter if you're going to get some regular or more than regular minutes? And so, I made the statement last night, and Kyle about ended the stream. I said, I think Guy Santos can be if he played 5 minutes a half and just like that. And again, I'm not advocating for it, but I said it last night. Like, if he played just 10 minutes a game, I bet he would shoot 40% from 3. Like, I think he would have a chance to shoot 40% from 3. Now, he may be so bad at other things that it doesn't deem that he gets that opportunity. And again, there's a pecking order and a rotation. So this is not the, as I said last night, this is not the demand like some would say with Kuminga. Like, you have to play him as 30 minutes and he'll produce and you'll win. Like, I'm not saying anything like that as far as Guy Santos goes, but no, I mean, Guy Santos is a guy that, look, if you can hustle and not be a terrible defender and knock down open threes when the ball comes to you, then you can be an NBA rotation player. So yeah, I would say Enrique, that Guy can become something more. Now, again, what's the timeline as far as that goes? That I think remains to be seen. But I think he's much closer to being in that position where he's just one of a bunch of guys that are all of a very similar level talent. Wesley Morton, I was about to read a different one from Wesley Morton, but Kyle puts it up here. Guy's put in the work. He looks hungry. He's bulked up. Give him some room to run. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I don't know that the Warriors are necessarily in a position to be just, hey, Guy's going to start getting some run. But I said it last night, and Greg Silver jumped me in the YouTube only show. I said, you know what, really, like, I think there are nights where Guy could play over Moody. If Moody's going to be 1 for 6 from 3, 1 for 5 shooting, like, because to me, that's been the reason why Moody has not gotten the consistent minutes, is because he consistently has not made shots. And I think there's some other stuff going on with him as a tweener. And I think some nights they view him as a 3, some nights they view him as a 2. And so, again, I think they've taken the wrong approach with Moody. I basically think Moody should just be the backup 3 and should have been the backup 3. But, they had others at that position. And again, such an odd situation, too, because they end up paying him as well, but then they're still not playing him on the regular. Obviously, paying him makes him a more tradable asset at different points, maybe not in the next month here as we lead up to the trade deadline, but in the offseason, once his contract kicks up a little bit, he becomes more of a tradable asset as the Warriors look to make the move that they've been reluctant to make here. The other one I was going to read from Wesley Morton, Pat Spencer, playing like he gives a damn. Make Schroeder compete for his minutes with Pat might bring out a better Schroeder than what we have now. I'm guessing that's DS, Dennis Schroeder. No, but I do want to acknowledge that that's the first Pat Spencer. Is that the first Pat Spencer compliment we've had on Dubs OT? Like, usually, and Pat hasn't played a lot, but I feel like every time Pat Spencer plays, Kyle, it's why is Pat Spencer playing? Somebody else should be getting his minutes. Not so much of that tonight.
Well, the thing that stuck out to me is the game seemed to flow more for Pat Spencer than it did for Schroeder.
Well, okay. That's a different conversation, though, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because here's the reality: the Schroeder thing's not working. Like it, and again, tonight's a night where you would expect Schroeder to be more impactful, and his last most impactful game was the last back-to-back that Steph didn't play in. The first game of the back-to-back, Memphis and Sacramento, they sat him out of the first game of that back-to-back. They sat him out of the second game of this back-to-back, and Schroeder controlled the game. He was more aggressive. He was really looking to score. The shot wasn't there, although he did, I think, end up making three-pointers in that game, and the Warriors did beat the Grizzlies in that game. But as you look at it, like Schroeder, it just has not clicked. And I think Schroeder could be somebody, and I don't think the Warriors made the Schroeder move with the intent on trading him and having him be somebody that gets thrown into a deal. But if he doesn't start playing better, I think he's playing his way into that conversation as somebody that's going to be playing his way into maybe another trade heading elsewhere if the Warriors finally look to do something at the deadline. Again, in a perfect world, you would make a move that either allows for him to come off the bench and be the true backup point guard. I think that could be one way to take a little bit of pressure off of Schroeder. I think you still, over the long haul, probably have to believe that he's going to perform at a higher level just as he gets more comfortable. But again, I've said this, and it's not an exact comp because I'm not comparing the players. I'm just comparing the fit and the impact. And it reminds me of Oubre. I mean, it reminds me of, like, he would just get shots in the system and he just couldn't hit them. And he would be much more comfortable in getting his in ways that weren't the Warrior system. And then they just didn't do enough to fit the things that he did well. And then, Oubre, I think, was somebody that ended up not maybe having the best attitude during his time as things got more frustrating and they weren't winning. I don't think that's Schroeder at all. I think that's where maybe the comparison drops off. But and again, Oubre's a wing and Schroeder's a point guard. So I'm not comparing the players stylistically, but it's just in terms of impact And the kinds of players that you would think you would put, hey, this guy's been a pretty good NBA player everywhere he's been. So you figure he would come to the Warriors and be a pretty good NBA player. I thought people thought that of Kelly Oubre, and then it just didn't work out at all. And then you look at Dennis Schroeder and you would think, oh, yeah, he's been not only a thorn in the Warriors side, but he's just been a really good NBA. I mean, he's having a great year with Brooklyn. Now, again, Brooklyn is playing, he was kind of the man, and they were playing this 5-out offense with a bunch of, 3 shooters on the court and a big, and he's just controlling things, and he's driving, and he's kicking out to shooters all over the place. And I think that helps his effectiveness, and the guys that Brooklyn had to be able to play pick and roll with were helping his effectiveness. Like, it can't just be the TJD Schroeder pick and roll, right? It can't like that. You got to have somebody else that you can run that with that's a little bit more of a threat, to where both guys are a threat there. So good start to the show. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll get more from the YouTube chat. Give me your big takeaways from this one, if at all, and then we'll also get into some of the rumors abounding for the last couple of days here. And we'll also hear a little bit from Steve Kerr and Guy Santos and Pat Spencer from Indiana as the Warriors lose 108-96. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is KNBR, and this is Dubs OT with John Dickinson, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
How much in the tank does Dennis Schroeder have playing last night?
Set some screens here. They've shown they'll die on some screens.
Pick and fade, and Quentin Post with the three, and the Warrior bench goes nuts.
But it started with his screen. He's setting amazing screens. Steph Curry's like, this is amazing.
Dude, he went behind the back on the pass.
Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome back. It is Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose in Indiana, 108-96. The final. Pacers sweep the season series, winning back on December the 23rd at Chase Center. And the Warriors with a rare weekend off as they play tonight and then will not play until Monday. But coming up here in about 3 weeks, I think they have the same thing where they play on a Friday night at home. That week in between the championship games in football and the Super Bowl, I think they have that weekend off as well, February 1st and 2nd, in between games on Friday and Monday. But the Warriors are going to head for north of the border and on to Toronto, where they will take on the Raptors Monday, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves coming up on Wednesday. Warriors without Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, along with Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton II, and Brandon Pajemski in this one. We'll get back into the YouTube chat. 808 KNBR. The phone lines are open here as well, as we'll keep things going until 9 o'clock. And the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line as the Warriors, big games from Pat Spencer, nice game from Guy Santos. Quentin Post got his first real true meaningful action and buckets in his 7 minutes tonight, but again, not a lot of grandiose takeaways as the Pacers just make they struggle with the Warriors. They won each quarter, right? They won each quarter. Won the first by 3, second by 2, third by 5. They win the fourth quarter by 2, and just kind of a plodding, kind of low energy, but did what you have to do kind of win in terms of that. The Warriors able to now try and get a little bit healthier here. And that's where I wanted to start this segment, going back to pregame, because I said in the last segment, the first part of the show, one thing I truly despise is the NBA when teams just rest guys, when teams just blatantly, all right, back to back, XYZ, your 3, 4, 5 best players, whatever. I think Fitz at it as 6 of the top 8. We'll roll with that. That's fine. I'm not gonna quibble or count. I think Curry, Draymond, Wiggins, and Kuminga are probably the top 4 at this particular point in time. So fine, 6 of the top 8 unavailable for the Warriors in this game tonight. But I found what Steve Kerr had to say pregame interesting, and we're going to go ahead and play it, because I know there are many out there who despise it as much as I do when teams rest their guys. And look, there are official designated injuries for each of those guys, and obviously Wiggins with the personal reasons. So it's not just, all right, shutting it down and resting, and Curry's obviously been banged up. But here's what and how Steve Kerr explained sitting Steph and sitting Draymond in this one as it relates to the big picture of the NBA season.
Draymond's back has been tight and bothersome. Steph still has some fluid in his knee, so they're going to be out tonight. But with the idea that these extra few days before the Toronto game, we'll have them ready for that game. But unfortunately, they're just at the age and at the stage of their careers with so much wear and tear that no matter how you slice it, they're going to miss some games. They just are, and when they're injured, we have to be really careful. Otherwise, they're going to miss a month or two, and there goes our season.
It's the last part for me. And I think that is the truth serum as to where the Warriors are right now with this thing. Because I know there are a lot of people that are frustrated, and we had a few on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line people frustrated with, hey, this team needs to win. They come into tonight 19-18, and they're battling here for 10th in the West and in the play-in tournament, and the Kings are hot, and you got Phoenix and San Antonio right on their heels, and all of this. And so as you look at it, hey, this team needs to be fighting and chasing wins, right? To go back to what Steve Kerr said about, I guess, that was almost 4 years ago now, back in February of 2021, the infamous, he's not going to be chasing wins every single night from a game in San Antonio. But when you look at it from the Warriors standpoint, as things sit right now, they truly cannot not have Steph for a month, or Steph and Draymond for a month. I mean, they can barely, over the last week, not have Kuminga for a week. I mean, they're now 1-3 in the games that Kuminga has completely missed. They were able to win after he played in the first half of the game against Memphis and didn't play in the second half of the game against Memphis. So it is a brutal reality, and I think a tell that the Warriors are at this point where I think the season truly is hanging by a thread right now. And I said it last night, if the Warriors had lost the game to Detroit in the manner they would have lost the game to Detroit, from up 18 with about 5.5 minutes to go to losing that game outright in what would have just been the worst of the blown leads that, yet among any of the ones that they've blown in the last 2-3 years. And so that would have been almost coupled with tonight, and kind of knowing ahead of time that Steph and Wiggins and Draymond had the potential to all three not be available for the game tonight. You lose that game last night in that fashion, the season might be on the brink of being done tonight. And people push back and, well, JD, what are you talking about? And it's, they're right there and they're tied. They're 2.5. Like, it is fragile right now. It is fragile for the Golden State Warriors right now. And to hear Steve Kerr so openly and honestly say, hey, they have to be careful or they're going to miss a month or two, and there goes the season. And that audio, by the way, courtesy of Anthony Slater of The Athletic, who was on hand pregame in Indianapolis for this game tonight. And so it just, they are at the point where they're trying to get a game like last night. They're trying to make sure everybody's rested enough to where, forget about tonight. You're probably going to lose unless there's just a Herculean effort and things get weird and Indiana stinks and doesn't take the game completely seriously. And even if they don't take the game completely seriously for probably 36, 38 minutes, they could still win it with a good 10 or 12 minutes. Like, it's just an awful position to have to be in. But it just goes to show, I think, how fragile the whole thing is, to the point where you get last night and now you need 3 days to make sure that you can get Toronto. And it's just, and you look at the standings, and Toronto's 8-30 and has lost 4 in a row and 9 of the last 10. And, they've only won 1 road game. They've been a little bit better at home, but they're 8-30. Toronto is 8-30. And so the Warriors are finding themselves right now where they're trying to make sure that they maximize what they have on the nights where they feel they have the best chance to be able to win. And I think you've seen them do that. I think they picked the Memphis game to rest Steph Curry over the Sacramento game, in part because they thought they could win the Memphis. I think they thought they were more apt to win the Memphis game, even though Memphis had a better record at that point than the Kings, just because the Kings, good or bad, have a lot of offensive firepower, and the Warriors don't right now have a lot of offensive firepower. So I think they thought, hey, we're cooked against the Kings if we don't have Steph Curry. Now, it turned out they were cooked against the Kings even with Steph Curry, but they were able to get the Grizzlies game. I think they looked at Indiana, bad matchup, team that's handled the Warriors at Chase for years, athletic, can kind of fly around. I think they looked at that game as, well, punt that game. And even though Detroit has been playing great basketball of late. I think 8 of 9 that the Pistons had won leading into the game last night. I think they thought, well, young team, little bigger team, more plotting. Yes, they have Cade Cunningham, but that's the game where, nope, want to make sure if Steph and Draymond in every play, you're going to get an engaged Draymond because you're playing Detroit and he's back in Michigan, so he's fired up and he's home. So you're getting an energetic Draymond game, which you got. Steph didn't shoot it well, but he's still out there. So they're in this spot where they're picking and choosing. Try to get and I think they've picked correctly. Now, they haven't won both ends of any of these, but I think but it just goes to show how much of a difficult position they're in right now and how much they truly are hanging on by a thread until they can either get a little bit 3-4 game breathing room above 500 or make some kind of a move that will allow for this team to get an infusion, whether it's a big that can shoot the basketball, whether it's going out and looking to make a bigger move. We'll get into some of those details coming up here momentarily in the 8 o'clock hour. And also tomorrow on Just Dubs, by the way. Just Dubs begins its 2-hour extravaganza. So you got 2 hours of Dubs talk tonight off of this wonderful game and the last couple of games, obviously. And then you've got Just Dubs tomorrow beginning at 10. So 10 until noon here, all the way for the next couple of months on Saturday morning. So really looking forward to that with the 49ers season. And again, if you like the conversation, as so many of our regulars do in the YouTube chat, join me tomorrow, 10 a.m. until noon here on KNBR, the sports leader. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. More from the chat. San Jose Jazz fan in the chat says, me, meaning him, the Warriors cannot afford to say, oh, well, we didn't have Steph. Mrs. Jazz fan, the Warriors just aren't good enough. It's very disappointing. Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's the latter. The Warriors are just not good enough, and it's very disappointing. Enrique Rivera, Joe Lacob doesn't want to be known as Mr. 500. Well, I don't think anybody's looking at Joe Lacob as Mr. 500 because he's got the 4 championships. But there will come a time where Stephen Curry is no longer on the roster. And I do think the level at which the Warriors perform during the time Steph Curry remains on the roster will go a long way toward determining what Joe Lacob is known for. But let's be real about it. I mean, Joe Lacob's going to be known for being the owner that helped win 4 titles and build a new arena in the Bay Area, which people thought would never happen in a lifetime. I mean, and again, some didn't want it to happen. That's a different conversation, obviously, because of the special place, obviously, that Rorickle had in people's hearts, and the Warriors playing in Oakland specifically had in people's hearts. So I don't mean to go down that road, but being the owner that invested, and yes, he inherited Stephen Curry, always accurate on that one, but being the owner that invested the time, energy, resources, money, he was at the top. So he gets part of the credit for all of it. Again, we can debate Steph this and Jerry West that and all those kinds of things, but the owner gets the credit when things go well at that level. So I don't think he's known as Mr. 500, but a couple of more years like this one and the last one and the one before, and then mediocrity post Steph Curry, and that's a different conversation. But that's also a conversation for, we're not having the answer to that. Nobody's calling him Mr. 500 until 2032, probably. I mean, people might call him that, but I don't know if it's necessarily accurate there. Andis Brown on the game tonight in the YouTube chat. The only thing I got out of this game, if you play hard and compete, you have a chance to win. If they had any shooting, they might have had a chance to win. That's a good point. It's a good takeaway. And I thought, to go back to last night and Steve Kerr's postgame comments regarding Guy Santos, I think that was a big part of the equation. Was Steve really singled out the way that Guy Santos played in terms of the hustle plays. And our guy Greg Silver had pointed that out on our Dubs OT show last night. We had Kyle and Greg and myself and the kind folks in the YouTube chat. And, Greg he pointed out all of those things, and all of those things are great. And so, yeah, he had that and the shooting. And I think both are equally as important, but he really singled out the way Guy Santos played as doing the things that the team as a whole needs to do in the game every night, in the games where they have everybody, in the games where Wiggins is playing, in the games where Kuminga is playing, in the games where GP2 and Pajemski are playing. So I think it all, for me, comes back to the margin for error thing. The Warriors don't have the margin for error to not play extremely hard every single night and then expect to win. Like, this is not 2017, 2018. You could say, hey, get more talent on the roster to where they don't have to do that. We were talking about at the top of the show, we had some people in the chat that were, again, obviously Kings fans who were kind of trolling. I mean, the biggest difference between the Kings when they were 13, the Kings became a team that I think was kind of living off their success from 2 years ago. Like, they started coasting, even as a young team with a lot of offensive talent. And we can get into who's to blame, and that's not why I brought it up, to make it a Mike Brown, Doug Christie, debate on that front. That will play out over time, and we'll have an answer to that. But a big part of the reason the Kings started playing better is because they started playing harder every night. The Kings 2 years ago played their ass off every night when they won 48 games. They played their ass off and had offensive firepower, and they were clutch, and they were they competed every night. And that was why they ended up winning those 48 games to that point. And they had started, I think, slowly, even last year when they still won 46 games, they kind of started coasting. And again, that's a younger team with I think, much more offensive talent, to be sure, top to bottom, than the Warriors have. And that's even with the Warriors having the greatest shooter and one of the top 5 to 10 players of all time. That team's still top to bottom. I mean, they have 3, 4, 5 guys. I mean, that can fill it up. So, but they started coasting. And if you coast in this league and think you can win coasting, you will not win if you're a team of middling, even if you're a team that's slightly above middling talent. You're not going to win consistently. Even if you have a lot of talent, you're not going to win as much as maybe you think you should. So the reason I bring it up is because, to me, the Warriors, in a lot of ways, it's similar in that you got to play your ass off. And I think it's harder to play your ass off at that level when you're older, right? So it's one thing to coast when you're kind of a younger team, but that kind of team can be prodded into doing it. That kind of team can be forced into doing it, whether it's embarrassment because the coach got fired, or whether it's a coach coming in and really getting on their ass, or whatever it is, right? A younger team, if you start doing it, the results are instantaneous, but at least you've got the energy as a younger team to do it. I think part of the problem for the Warriors, they don't have the energy on a night in, night out basis to do it, because a lot of their guys are older. And so that makes it even more tricky for Steve Kerr as to the combinations that he plays, because I think you want enough edge and energy and fight. And they had that at the beginning of the year. But I think as we go back now and we revisit everything, did they have it at the beginning of the year because they were shooting it well, and that was making it easier to defend? And then when the shots stopped falling, they didn't compete as much as regularly. And I think, and again, part of it is they're just older. Part of it is Steph can't do it 36 minutes a night every night like he used to, and Draymond surely can't. And there's nights where you see that they can. Wiggins is somebody who probably could do it more regularly and doesn't. Buddy Hield, please. I mean, but so you get into this back and forth if you're the Warriors as to, well, who are the guys that are going to bring it every night? And are those guys good enough at basketball in other areas to allow you to actually win when they're playing hard? Or do you need to, and then you need to have guys with talent, but you got to have the guys with talent that are competing at the the highest level also. And then it just gets back to roster construction and do you have enough out of it, or enough balance. So to make it all work is Ohio State just went in. Wow. Ohio State just went in for a touchdown there. Late with Texas driving to tie. Wow. So it's looking like Ohio State and Notre Dame coming up on fumble return, 82-yard fumble return for a touchdown, with Texas going in looking to tie the game, and Ohio State now with 2 minutes to go in the semifinal at the Cotton Bowl. Wow. That's a big time play. So, all right, let's go ahead and take another timeout. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. More from the YouTube chat. We've got Sounds of Dubs OT coming up here. We'll do that coming back, and then more from the YouTube chat as well. We'll hear a little bit of Kerr. We'll hear a little bit of who did we have tonight? We had Pat Spencer and Guy.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
All right, Pat Spencer and everybody's favorite, Guy Santos, following the Warriors' loss to the Indiana Pacers 108-96. So we'll do that on the other side. We can sneak in some calls. Again, I'm gonna lean on all of our friends here in the YouTube chat. I want to get to a lot of these with the expanded show, a lot of these comments, as many as possible. So we'll do that here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 here. We got an expanded edition here of Dubs OT with JD with you until 9 o'clock. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Warriors lose to the Pacers tonight. Kind of a dud. Nobody played 108-96, but we're here because we're here every night after Warrior games. We've got Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios, and we also have Just Dubs coming your way tomorrow morning here on KNBR from 10 a.m. until noon. So make sure if tonight and every night here is not enough for your Dubs and NBA fix, I do watch the whole league. I know sometimes people come in trolling. People come in trolling, Kyle, like they think I don't watch other teams or watch the whole league. I'm watching the league. I know who's doing what. I had like 6 games going at once. I was locked in on the Sacramento Boston game tonight. Was locked in on the Warrior game tonight. Like I've always, once we get past football season, especially, I'm watching everybody, Kyle.
Do you have a league pass?
Oh yeah, I do. I have league pass I have the TV league pass. Here's what a sicko I am. I have the TV league pass and the streaming league pass.
Wait, so what? So TV. I'm guessing you get the local TV.
Like I have Direct TV league pass because I have Direct TV because I haven't cut the cord. And then I have like the streaming like NBA app league pass so I can watch anywhere on my iPad. So yeah. Anyway, I'm a true sicko. I know there's people out there probably saying, well, JD, why don't you just cut the cord and just only have streaming? Well, because I like I'm not gonna. I like the setup as is for now. So anyway, back here on Dubs OT, but yeah, I'm locked in on everything that's going on. I was watching the college football game with the scoop and score touchdown there to put Ohio State up a couple of touchdowns. Always keeping tabs on everything that's going on here. All right, it is Sounds of Dubs OT. So let's just hear a little bit of the post-game press conference for Steve Kerr from Indiana on who got opportunities to play tonight and played well, and just where the Warriors are at here looking to move into this weekend and then head up to Toronto.
What did you make a pass performance tonight?
Yeah, Pat was great. Aggressive, really attacked the paint and wasn't afraid to let it fly. He's a really good player. The game makes sense when he's out there. There's a flow to it, and it was fun watching him play. It was fun getting Quentin his first real minutes at a time where we're still in the game. Just to see him come out there and space the floor, you see what the impact is of having a space big. You just go pick and pop, and all of a sudden the whole lane opens up, and that's a nice look for us. It's something we don't normally have, and so we're generating a lot of our offense through our movement and split cuts and all that. But if Pat or if Quentin can develop, he could be a real threat for us and give us a totally different look offensively.
You haven't had that kind of look from the 5 position very often in the past however many years. How nice might it be to have someone like Quentin in the mix?
Yeah, it's it's something that Mike Dunleavy and I talk about periodically. We've had guys who have helped in that regard, maybe not from the 5 spot, but Otto, Porter, and Belly in 22. Both guys really stretched the floor for us, and you could feel the difference. And but those guys aren't easy to find, and that's why we drafted Quentin to see if he could develop. He's a really good player. He's got experience, 5 years of college, shoots it well. You could see, put it on the floor and had a little left-handed layup. It didn't go, but you can see the skill is there. And so we'll continue to to work with him and get him back to Santa Cruz for a lot of reps. But that's something that we're trying to develop.
People have Wiggins back Monday.
Not sure yet. Yeah. Gary is hopeful. I just talked to him. He thinks he's going to be ready to play in Toronto, but the training staff has to clear him. And then Wiggs will just be day-to-day based on his circumstances at home. I'm sorry?
Brandon, is there any chance on the stuff?
Yeah, not sure. He's not sure if he's going to be ready or not.
It looked like Schroeder might have twisted his ankle on the floor. Is he doing all right?
He said he was okay, after the game. Heavy minutes the last 2 nights. He's played a lot of minutes since he's gotten here and has not missed a game. And it'll be good to have a couple of days for him to rest up.
Yeah, so the Warriors with a couple of days off to rest up. It'll turn into 3 days for Steph and for Draymond, and we'll see about Andrew Wiggins as well as the Warriors look to go up against Toronto on Monday. One interesting thing, and he mentioned Quentin Post and the stretch big component of what it would allow the Warriors to do. Is he campaigning for Vucevic there, Kyle? As he mentions Quentin Post, I couldn't help but think of Vucevic playing a little pick and pop 5 who could also score a little bit on the inside and hit the 3 ball from the outside. I don't know. That's kind of where my mind went. Is it fair or foul?
No, I was thinking the same thing. I also thought it was interesting that he compared it to Otto Porter and Nemanja Bjelica, who are on the championship team. And I thought Otto Porter specifically was such a great addition for them in terms of spacing the floor. So I think, and the Warriors, I think they clearly need more guys that can space the floor. So no, I see where you're coming from.
I mean, I gave a lengthy and detailed, it really probably should have been a social media clip last night on the YouTube only. Maybe we'll go back through, and I mean, I'm not going to really be doing anything on Sunday other watching the NFL and watching some hoop, but about Cam Johnson and how many different ways I do think if the Warriors were to go get Cam Johnson, it could help the entire operation function more fluidly. Again, Cam Johnson's going to cost you more than Vucevic. I do think the Warriors should look to go make some kind of a move like that. And again, they may not, every win they get buys them a little bit of time to not have to at least appear to be so desperate. And I understand it, but again, this team as it's currently constituted isn't getting it done. So they have to figure out a way to go out and add. And again, I think the stretch big is an area to add. I think that 3 and D, even just 3, forget about the D part, although Cam Johnson's not a bad defender at all, but a wing that can really shoot the 3 ball and stroke it. They really don't have that. They have Steph, they have, Buddy when he's on, but Buddy's not a wing. Buddy's a guard. And so, they don't really have the shooting wing, and they don't really have the shooting big. So I think in short order, they have to go get, in a perfect world, you go get both. But in short order, I think you have to look to get what you can get as quickly as you can get it. And I think, that would be more the Vucevic line as far as that's concerned. And then a lot of praise for Pat Spencer from Steve Kerr in the postgame press conference. Pat tonight, 20 minutes, career high 17 points, 7 of 12. He was out there hustling. So let's go ahead and hear from the Warriors' high man. It was him and Buddy with 17 leading the way. Pat Spencer following this one.
I think we probably had a couple turnovers that we went back. I think the thing that really separated the game was that third quarter, actually, where they picked up the pressure quite a bit. Felt like we didn't attack the pressure with pressure. It felt like we kind of accepted the tough push out on catches and kind of stagnated our offense a bit, led to some turnovers and some tougher shots. And that's what they want. They want to get out and run. They're not like an elite half-court team. They really get out and run, and they don't have a ton of isolation guys. They got guys that play well off of closeouts, attacking different reads, and guys and capable shooters. So that third quarter, I felt like we kind of played into their hand a bit. That's what they're known for. So, in hindsight, we probably got into some ball screens a little bit too late. I think spacing and really putting some of those guys in some tough predicaments where, QP can pop. Dennis, if they want to switch, can get downhill on their bigs. I think we settled a couple times. So we just didn't attack it the way we should have at third. And I felt like that's kind of where the game got separated.
What was it like seeing him out there tonight?
Yeah, it's great for him, man. I mean, he's been working his butt off. I've been in his shoes and even lower. So he's got a really high IQ, good feel for the game, can shoot the cover off the ball when he shoots it with confidence. So just the beginning for him. Defensively, he'll get better, and I'm excited for him, though.
17, what did you make of what you played?
We're shorthanded. I had to be aggressive. I feel like I'm one of the guys on this team who has the ability to get into the paint and make reads for other guys. Tonight, they forced me to score a little bit more, stayed home on a couple guys. So a couple that I light back, thought I got fouled on a couple of them. But, it just had to be aggressive given the group that we had.
Is that a hard thing for you to switch on? I know you're generally like more of a pass first guy.
I think I just try to take what the defense gives me. I think historically when I come in, we've had a lot of guys that maybe are trying to get them up, and we haven't had a whole lot of flow. So for me, it's just about feeling where the game is at. When we have a full roster and Steve calls my number, it's normally for an energy boost and to get guys cleaner looks. Tonight, like I said, personnel, it's probably going to be on me to get downhill a little bit more and make some plays. We just didn't have our full roster.
Yeah, not a full roster for Pat Spencer. Pat Spencer looking to be aggressive on a night that was set up for Pat Spencer to cook. And cook he did, Kyle, to the tune of 17 points in Indiana. Go ahead, jump in. I know you.
A very confident man. And yeah. I think you mentioned this maybe earlier in the season that his confidence probably rivals Brandon Pajemski's, and I think that's true.
Yeah, and I think it has to if you're going to make it to the league. I think and take the path that Pat Spencer has taken to get himself to being an NBA player. I think you have to have that level of confidence where you think you're a little bit better than you are. And this Warriors team doesn't need a whole hell of a lot of Pat Spencer, but tonight, unfortunately, I mean, nobody likes it if you're a Warrior fan. The fact that you've got a bunch of guys like that out there that are having to play, but they did, as many have noted in the chat, they did get out there and in a game that was punted at 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, they competed. They fought, they competed. Again, I'm not handing out participation trophies and things like that. I don't like to really belabor it. I mean, again, I don't think there are grandiose takeaways from it. But on a night that could have been really ugly for the Warriors, it wound up being a respectable loss. But the reality is a loss at this point. And the Warriors find themselves in this danger zone of potentially being out of it before the deadline. I mean, that's just the reality. They've got 2 games to go on the road. They've got the 8 of 9 at home, which is coming up after the 2 games on the road. And then they've got a game in Utah before the trade deadline and 5 more games on the road right after the trade deadline. They'll be in LA on the trade deadline day to play the Lakers. And then they've got the remaining 4 games on that trip plus the game in LA that lead into the All-Star break. So we're going to know here in a month. I mean, we truly are going to know by the trade deadline. And I think even by the All-Star, by the All-Star break, exactly where this team is at. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and hear from Guy Santos, who is going to be next here. Another quality outing for Guy Santos as he scores 11 points, 2 of 2 from 3. I haven't looked at Guy Santos' 3-point percentage for the season. I might do that while we hear him talk, but Guy's proven my wild statement from last night that he could shoot 40% in limited time. Let's hear a little bit from Guy, then we'll get more from the chat as we continue on here on Dubs OT.
Very pleased with the effort. Just what was the focus tonight for you guys, knowing you were shorthanded?
Yeah, we know that we don't have our main guys. So the main thing for us is go there and play hard as we can. We played yesterday and we got to play today, and we were happy because that's opportunity that we have, the young guys, and we were just trying to go there and play in the highest level that we can.
This might have been I assume it's the first time you played a back-to-back in NBA like this amount of minutes. Did it feel any different than a normal game?
To be honest, I feel, because I'm used to do that in the G League, so I feel basically the same. My body is used to that. So yeah, I don't feel any big difference,
What was it like being out there with Pat tonight? What was he able to give you guys?
Oh yeah, Pat is my guy. So yeah, we very close, and I be there playing with him. When we played 2 years in the G League together, and now that was the 2 games that we really have the opportunity to play together on the court, and he was playing well tonight. And also be there and see him playing like that, playing hard, and helping us the way that he can. That was great to see that.
What did you think was the difference in the fourth quarter?
So I think we were not running back as we were in the beginning of the game. So the transition, they have a couple, I would say 2 or 3 threes in a row that hurt us. They have 2 dunks in a row in transition that hurt us. So yeah, I would say that was in the transition. We were not running back.
Yeah, a couple of turnovers at inopportune times, some poor transition defense at different points, and it all adds up to the Warriors not having enough in a game where they didn't have Steph Curry or Draymond Green or Andrew Wiggins or Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, Gary Payton II, and they lose this one 108-96, the final in Indiana. So back to 19-19, tied for 9th, technically 10th now in the Western Conference, which is the exact same spot that they found themselves in last April at the end of the 2023-24 season. On to Toronto for the Warriors after the next couple of days off. All right, more from the YouTube chat, and we'll get a couple in the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line as well. Let's ride. Great game by Guy. He needs to take more shots. The thing I like about Guy is he doesn't force it, but he does seem confident when he gets it in the right spot. Steve Kerr said this about Lindy Waters back early on when Waters was getting run, and there were those handful of games where he was making an impact there when he got his opportunities. And what Kerr said was that he liked the shots that Waters didn't take, right? There were shots that the wide open ones that you got to take in the flow and the rhythm of the offense, but then also other ones where it makes sense to make the right pass. And I feel like Guy has a little bit of that, right? There are certain shots you take, and then there are other shots where you keep it moving and look to maybe get it back or continue the flow of the offense. And I think Guy has a pretty good handle on that. But again, I think Guy Santos is somebody that is going to be, I don't know how long of a career he's going to have in the NBA, and he's still very much a young and developing player, obviously. But I think he's somebody that can end up shooting it pretty well on the season. Coming into the game, he's still at, I guess, 33% for 35.7% in his career from 3-point range, and still, I guess, 33% overall this season. Was that before tonight? 15. Let's see. He is 5 of 15. So you add the two added. So he's 7 for 7 for 17 now if you had the 2 for 2. So what's 7 for 17? Let's see. That's up 41%. 41%. He's up from 35 to 41%, Kyle. There it is. But no, I think he can shoot it a little bit, but you got to take the right shots. Andis Brown, our buddy Andis, I watched OKC tonight. Andis says no way the Warriors can beat them in a 7-game series unless a superstar is parachuted onto the roster. I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Yeah, the Warriors aren't beating Oklahoma City, but don't let the fact that they can't beat, or you don't think they could beat one of those top teams in the West, make you think that they shouldn't make a move. Like, that's the part that I just can't, I can't roll with. Like, the fact, if you don't think you can win a title, because you hear this a lot, and we're going to talk about this more on Just Dubs tomorrow, but, well, they can't win the title even if they make a move, so why make a move? You make a move because you want to freaking try to be as competitive as you possibly can be. Now, I get it. You don't want to maybe mortgage the entire future with giving up 3-4 post-Steph Curry first-round picks or anything like that. And I understand the debate, as we've had so often, surrounding Jonathan Kuminga and whether you trade him or you don't trade him. And again, there are arguments on both sides of that issue. I am open to that 100%. But you don't just do nothing. Like, you don't just do nothing. Rockin' New Era 84. At this point, just trade everyone but Steph. If this team stays like this team will be under 500. I would agree. I think it's trending in that direction. Again, people come down my road when I say this. It's Steph and Draymond. Like, Draymond's not going anywhere either at this particular point in time. Enrique Rivera, OKC sweeps that series easy. The hypothetical Andis Brown series. San Jose Jazz fan 4. Hey, Zion it wants to trade. Yeah, the Warriors reportedly aren't interested. They should be interested in Zion. By the way, Zion suspended, missed a flight, and was late for some practices. And so, yeah, add that to, I mean, Zion just unserious about his diet, unserious about his conditioning, unserious about his health and trying to keep himself in the best possible condition to not be injured. So I think the Warriors should be interested in Zion. I said it to Copes and Derek Papa the other night before the Miami game here on KNBR. I jumped in from Harmonic Brewing with them pregame, and I said it like to me, that's the one player where he is young enough to where it could be a buy low. It could be a go get him, basically get him healthy, get him in shape. I don't think he's going to be a win now kind of an option, but you get him healthy, you get him in shape, and all of a sudden you may have somebody that overperforms his contract and is what, 25? I mean, how old is Zion Williamson at this point? I mean, I mean, he's still super young, right? I mean, I don't have it in 20. He's not even 25. He's 24. He's going to be 25 in July. So you've got a guy who's basically 25. Now, I think the part that nobody really likes about the whole Zion thing is that you basically, if you get him, you're not really going to have him, I don't think, much for this year. Like, if you get him, it's almost like when the Warriors got Bogut. And, I mean, this is going way back, but when the Warriors traded for Bogut at that trade deadline in 2012, they got Bogut. Bogut was hurt. They said, hey, we're going to let Bogut heal and get him healthy and get his conditioning right and all these things. And he's going to play next year and be the starting center. And so, in that same moment, on that same night, and it's interesting because the Warriors were, I think, a game and a half or 2 games out of the 8th seed at that point. There was no play-in tournament then. And they tapped out on deadline night. They tanked. They got Harrison Barnes. They shut Steph Curry down for the rest of the year and let him get his ankles right. They were, 2 under, 3 under, 500, somewhere in there, but they were only like a game and a half out of the 8 seed. And they're like, yeah, we don't want it. So again, do you want to do that right now with Steph Curry, 36, about to be 37 in March? I don't know. I don't know if you really do. But I think Zion's young enough to where he has when he's healthy and he's in shape, he's a great player, and he's 24. So again, that's the kind of, it's risky, but it's risky in a way that I think the Warriors should be comfortable in accepting some risk, for crying out loud. Robert Douglas, JD, why do you keep talking about the trade deadline? Every year it comes and goes, and this team, the Warriors, does nothing. Well, they got to do something. Not doing anything is not, if they don't do anything, we're going to have a lot of meaningless basketball to talk about at the end of February and March. Straight up. And I think they're going to make at least one, if not multiple trades. They cannot stand pat again. And I think they know they cannot stand pat again. CA, I think what translates is we need a stretch 5 and or 4. We either need to trade for Vooch or Miles Turner or give Post Looney's minutes. I don't know about the last part, CA, but again, I do think they need a stretch. They do need a stretch big. And I think there are stretch bigs attainable without having to give up a lot. So I think that ultimately will be the deal, but you can't get outbid. Tony Smith, Guy Santos should get more minutes. Better shooter than most players on this team. We lack players that can shoot the ball with consistency. I don't think it's the end of the world if he's going to get out there and hustle. Why not give him a couple of games? And again, Steve Kerr knows his deficiencies as a player. But to me, why not give him 3 or 4 games where he gets an opportunity in the rotation when this team is closer to whole? And they were, I think, closer to whole last night. But can you imagine, Kyle, imagine the night that Steve Kerr decides he's going to play Guy Santos over Moses Moody. Oh, my God. No.
Oh, the cries and yells are going to come out.
What is Moses Moody from 3 the last 3 games? 2 for 12? Again, if Moses Moody's not making shots, Moses Moody's got he's kind of unplayable in a way. We had a bunch of people early on in the show reacting. Bunch of Kings trolls tonight in the chat. Kind of weird. Little strange tonight. Not sure where that came from. They did get a big win in Boston. Domantas Sabonis, their best player, by the way. Here's the one thing I am going to say about the Kings whole thing. Do the Kings get credit? Do their players get credit? And does their organization get credit for doing enough to convince De'Aaron Fox to not request a trade by winning these games without him? Because that's the other thing that's kind of burying the lead. Everybody's talking about they fired Mike Brown and Doug Christie, and they're 6-1 with Doug Christie now. And they beat Boston tonight. Half of those wins are without De'Aaron Fox, including the win against Boston tonight in Boston. So because the big national storyline surrounding the Kings is De'Aaron Fox is basically Giannis, so they have to do everything they can to make sure he, even though he's their second best player, doesn't ask out of a trade. Yeah. So does winning big games without him when their season's on the brink count for that or nah? I don't know. Just wondering. All right. Let's go ahead and take our final timeout. We'll come back. We will continue some final thoughts here on this one. We'll look at the scores. We'll look at the standings. We'll look at more from the YouTube chat as well, as it is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
All right, welcome back. Dubs OT, Warriors lose to the Pacers, 108-96. So they're 1-1 on the road trip. They're 19-19 overall. And the Warriors will be back in action Monday against the Toronto Raptors, who sit at 8-30. We'll get some fun with numbers coming up here. Do want to get to the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. We'll get more back from the YouTube chat as well. Here on KNBR on this Friday night. 650. JD, put it simply, it's hard for Steph to get up every night. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think considering how banged up he is, it most definitely is. And with as little help as he has, whether it's enough complementary role players on this roster or lack of a number two next to him, the Warriors still have not filled that void. And, Klay Thompson was that guy. And then it was, Durant, they were basically 1As. And, Wiggins and Klay and Jordan Poole sort of combined in the championship year. All three of them were basically the twos at different points. And I think that was the template for, you don't necessarily know who it's going to be, but it's going to be one of a couple of these people. And if it's another, if somebody else steps into that void on a certain night, then you'd certainly take it. And, the Warriors were getting that at the beginning of the year. The Warriors did not have a clear-cut number two. They still don't have a clear-cut number two. But they've had enough guys step up on enough nights early in the year. Often it was Buddy Hield, which I don't think anybody thought was going to be continuing. But they did have enough on a lot of those nights to be able to say, that this player, that player performed the role of basically being the number two. So, but they don't have it and they need it. And, Schroeder, I think they thought could be stopgap. Not that he is a true number two by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they thought he could stopgap. And it hasn't worked to this point. And I think, that is a reason to go get somebody like Vucevic. It's a reason to go get another deal at the deadline. 408, JD, do you think the Dubs will keep sitting their main guys most back-to-backs? I think for the time being, the answer to that is yes, although it was interesting because, and look, I mean, it hasn't always been every game. Like Draymond played both games of the back-to-back going back to the Grizzlies and Kings over the weekend. But I think, Draymond doesn't necessarily need every one of them off at this point, but maybe he needs every other one or every third one. Or you just kind of look at the schedule and see what's ahead. And, you look at the back-to-back tonight. You look at this team had a back-to-back Sunday, Monday. They're going to go Monday, Wednesday. Then they get a couple of days off before they start that homestand a week from tomorrow. But when they start that home stretch and the road games in Sacramento, they have one road game out of 9, and it's in Sacramento. They're like, those games are it is Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Like those games, like there are back-to-backs there in that stretch where, at some point, I just don't think if you're the Warriors, you're good enough to continue to do it regularly. But as Steve Kerr mentioned, and we played the clip, the Warriors are so vulnerable right now that they have to protect Steph and protect Draymond, because if they wind up losing either or both for an extended period of time, this season's completely cooked. It's over. It's a wrap. And so they are having to be extremely, extremely delicate with how they treat that. Juan, damn, I've never seen a team's front office with so much pressure on them to the point we're really feeling the awkwardness of it. Look, every night it's, damn it, do something, do something, do something, do something. I think the overwhelming majority of the fan base is do something. Yeah. And look, I think they are going to do something. I mean, we're going to discuss this more in depth on Just Dubs tomorrow at 10 a.m., but it's Joe Lacob and it's Mike Dunleavy visibly having conversations. I don't want to say heated conversations, but conversations where both are frustrated and Steph Curry's frustrated. And again, this team's hanging on by a thread right now, but I think everybody knows they have to do something. Wesley Morton, Curry's body and overall energy, speed, agility seems to have fallen off quite a bit since last season. Still great and capable of cooking, but he looks tired. Yeah, to me, he looked really good the first 3-4 weeks. And then right as this team started to nosedive a little bit, it was this bilateral knee thing, which is not let up. And Steve Kerr in the postgame press conference, or was it the pregame press conference, the fluid in the knee, I guess it was the pregame press conference, fluid in the knee, which I guess is something that had been out there. But, I mean, anytime you're getting fluid in the knee, I mean, that's something that every so often you gotta get that relieved. And that means you probably have to take a couple days off. So I think that is also factoring in to when the Warriors are giving them the nights off to try and get them fresh and healthy to be able to come back and play here. All right, let's take one more quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll do fun with numbers and some final thoughts from the YouTube chat as the Warriors lose to the Pacers. We'll set the table for Just Dubs tomorrow, as it is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, final segment. It's a quick one. Warriors lose 108-96 in Indiana. No Steph, no Draymond, no Wiggins, no Kuminga, no Pajemski, no GP2. Who else am I missing here as the Warriors fall to 19-19? Quick, fun with numbers, and then we're going to be back with you tomorrow from 10 a.m. until noon. So make sure you are listening and watching then. We will have a grander big picture conversation about the Dubs and their week, phone calls, text messages, YouTube chat, all of those things here on the Sports Leader. So Warriors 1-1 now on the trip, 19-19 overall, 9-9 on the road, 10-10 at home. The Warriors sixth set of back-to-backs, 2-4 now in the second game of back-to-backs, and have split their last 5. They swept the first back-to-back that they had this season when they beat the Pelicans a couple of times at Chase Center. They have split every back-to-back since. Warriors, for the first time since February of 2023, the Warriors played a game without Steph, Draymond, and Wiggins since they have had Steph, Draymond, and Wiggins on the team together. Warriors are now 5-7, believe it or not. That's better than I would have thought it would have been when those three collectively don't play. Third time in the last 4 games, the Warriors do not score 100. They are really struggling to score. They're 1-10 when they fail to score 100. And again, the circumstances where the Warriors gave a bunch of the regulars the night off, 21st different starting lineup in 38 games for the Warriors. And the Warriors did not lead going to the fourth quarter tonight. They did not win the game, and they are 1-16 now this season when they trail after 3 quarters. So think about that with a team that has an overall record of 19-19 on the year. Buddy Hield and Pat Spencer, the high players tonight for the Warriors, 17 points, 22nd game in double figures for Buddy Hield, although Buddy was 6 of 19 and 3 of 12 from 3 and a -16 overall. So he scored, but he didn't necessarily play well in this game. Trace Jackson-Davis, 10 boards. He had them all in the first half. We talked about Pat Spencer, career high 17, and Quentin Post made his first career NBA three-pointer and finished with a career high 6 points in this one. And Guy Santos, on the positive side of things, double figures, 11 points after a career high tying 13 last night at Detroit, and played 25 minutes tonight, which is a career high for Guy Santos in terms of minutes played. Will we see more Guy Santos? Even as the Warriors start to get a little bit healthier, we shall see. All right, that is going to do it for us tonight. Kyle, who do we need to thank in addition to yourself in our San Francisco studios tonight?
Yeah, we had Jacob cutting the sound, and Kyle Chung just hanging.
All right. So
he was running the college football playoff, that exciting game between Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah. So Ohio State moves on. They will take on Notre Dame on the MLK holiday on the 20th for the national championship. And so we'll have that on KNBR. We'll also have a Dubs OT from Harmonic Brewing on that MLK holiday Monday, January 20th as well. And that's going to be a big meet and greet show for our Dubs OT devotees. And if the Kings fans want to come and troll me, that's fine too. All is welcome. It's all love, no hate, no bitterness. It's all good. We're just talking hoop on the radio and on YouTube. It doesn't have to be that serious. So for Kyle and Jacob and Kyle Chung, we'll talk to you tomorrow, 10 a.m. right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Schroeder. That's banged off the backboard. That's not a goaltend. And it'll be a dunk by Siakam. So a potential layup becomes the dunk on the other end. And Indiana moves it out to 13.
John Dickinson. No, God! No, God, please, no, no.
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls.